ReachIvy is a bringing educational advisory that helps aspiring students get accepted into top-tier educational institutions globally for high school, undergraduate, master's, MBA, and executive education programs.
Hi, good evening. It is my pleasure to welcome you this evening for our webcast on the student visa process. With me is Mr. Michael Oskin. Michael is a Vice Consul at US Consulate General in Mumbai. He has adjudicated thousands of student visas and has traveled all over Western India, briefing students about the US visa. Prior to joining the Foreign Service, Michael was a disaster management consultant and refugee rights advocate. Michael is originally from Chicago. Welcome, Michael. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you for having us here. Okay, we'll start. So we're happy to be here today with ReachIvy. We travel all over Western India, speaking with students that are looking at studying in the United States. So we're happy to talk about the process. We're going to spend a little time looking at how you can select a university in the US and thinking through some of those options. And I know many people have questions about the visa process, so we're going to spend some time talking about that as well. First, why don't we start off with a short video.
Together, and we learn together, we work together, and we prosper together.
We're going to spend a little time. We've got a presentation to start us off. As we go through this, I know many people will have questions. Let's start that. If you need to leave early or for any reason we don't answer all your questions today, feel free to visit us at ustraveldocs.com/in. All of the information is available on our websites. Great. We missed that. Wonderful. Okay, so let's talk for a little bit about the key to a successful higher education in the United States. We know, as I said before, there are a lot of questions as you go through the process. So we're happy to share some information today as we talk this through. So we find that the process can be daunting, so we'd like to talk in specifics. So I'd like to introduce you to our friend Anjali. Like many of you, Anjali is an Indian student who wants to study in the United States. She isn't quite sure how to start the process. There's a lot of information out there. What would you want to study? Where might you want to study? What school do you want to attend? How do you apply? You need to figure out standardized exams, the whole application process, and obviously the visa process. It's a daunting process. There's a lot of information out there. So where do you go? Well, there's good news for Anjali as well as for all of us. Anjali is not alone as we go through this process. In fact, there are almost 103,000 Indian students studying in the United States. That's more than 1 lakh Indian students in the US, across the entire United States and in all 50 states. Indians at this point make up the second largest foreign nationality studying in the US, and the numbers are increasing every year. Currently, there are over 886,000 or nearly 1 million international students studying in the United States. So wherever you go in the US, you're going to interact with students from all around the world. In fact, we have students in the United States from every country around the world. So the process is actually easier than you might think. Now, there are some things to do as you go through the process, so you want to be sure to pay close attention. The first step is to think about what school you might want to attend and to choose the correct school. So which is the right school? Well, In actuality, there are 9,000 academic institutions in the United States. There's not one perfect school. Even if you look at any specific academic discipline, whether it's computer science, chemical engineering, or philosophy, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of universities and colleges across the United States that offer a quality program in that area. So how do you narrow down the choice? There are a number of factors you might want to consider. Here are some possible factors. Now, this is not a definitive list. The choice is very personal. And what we want you to do is to find what is the right school for you. Not necessarily the perfect school for you, but the best fit given all of the factors that you might consider. So certainly education is a top priority. You're going to the US to study, you want to think of where you can succeed, what program will meet your needs. So you want to look at all the factors in that. Take a look at the coursework, take a look at the faculty, take a look at the specializations that are available. You might want to think about student diversity. As I mentioned, there are almost 1 million international students studying in the United States. If you want to be in a location where there are many Indian students, that's available. If you want to be in a location where there are students from all over the world or from other parts of the world, that's also a possibility. You can think about location. So that means a few things. If being in a big city is important to you, you have many options. If you want to be in a rural setting, somewhere more quiet, somewhere in the countryside, on a mountain, near an ocean, we've got all those options available as well. Now, people ask me when we do these presentations that they have a cousin or a sister living somewhere in the United States, and can they attend school near their cousin or near their family member? The answer is, of course, you can do that. And if you want to be somewhere different than where your family lives, because you've already been there, you can do that as well. But it's something that you want to consider as you go through the process. Where are you going to be happiest, and where can you succeed? Now, you might want to think about the facilities that are available at that university. Now, certainly that means educational facilities. You want to think about what libraries and what research facilities, what labs are available. But you'll also want to think about what other academic facilities are available, what athletic facilities are available, what housing is available. All of these things are important as you consider where you're going to spend the next 2 or 4, maybe 7 years of your life. And tuition is obviously an important consideration. Universities in the US come in every shape and size and every different price. You want to think about how you're going to pay that. So let's talk about financing your education. There's a lot to think about here. I know this is not the first time you've spoken about it, but let's take a second. So like many of you, Anjali might be thinking that universities in the US seem very expensive. So how do you go about paying for that university education? Well, you have a number of financial options available to you. Some of them are listed here on the screen. I'm sure you might know some more as well. There's financial aid available from many universities. The place to research this is to contact the university itself. Check out their website. Many universities have either an Office of Financial Aid, it might be the Office of Admissions. Take a look at what information is available and contact them to ask about your options. Now, there are scholarships available, and we'll list a few in a second, but there are always more. Check with your university. There's on-campus employment options. There's also sometimes loans, both from Indian lenders as well as from US lenders, and there are sources of money available from your home government, whether it's your state government or your national government. There are a number of international student scholarships. Here are some. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, but take a look. There are some that are available from the US government. There are some that are available from the international business community or from the Indian business community. And there are some US organizations that offer scholarships, fellowships, and grants to encourage international students to come and attend university in the United States. Let's talk about applying to schools for a moment. Here is a suggested timeline as you go through the process. So about 18 months ahead of time, 1.5 years ahead of when you're planning on attending university, you want to think about all that we've already spoken about. You want to think what's important to you. What do you want to study? What do you want to do after you finish your degree? Where do you see your life going, and how can your university help you reach your goals? Take a look at what programs are available. Take a look at what options are available to you. 16 months ahead of time, you want to start narrowing that list. Make a short list. Start doing more research about a smaller number of programs so that 10 months ahead of time, you're ready to apply to your schools. Now, the application process is long. The application process is unique to each university. There's not one standard US university application. Every university is able to define their own parameters and their own requirements. So you'll gather all those materials, you'll apply to the universities. 6 months ahead of time, hopefully, is when you're getting the great news that you've been admitted to the universities of your choice. You'll have some time to think through where you want to go. You'll decide where you want to attend, and you'll let that university know. And then 3 months ahead of time, after you've already done all of this work in determining what your future is going to be, where you're going to go to school, how you can apply to that school, how you're going to pay for that school, and after you've been admitted to that university, 3 months ahead of time, that's the moment when you're going to think about applying for your student visa. Now, this is a question I get asked a lot. Is it hard to get a student visa for the United States? The answer may surprise some of you. In fact, India has seen a 43% increase in student visa issuances compared to the previous academic year. And the good news is that this number is a couple of years old, and the increase has maintained at that rate or higher every year. So we're looking at a 40, 43, 45% increase in student visa issuances in India every year. There are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of students from India going to the US. All of these people are going through the student visa process. All of these people are coming in for an interview and being issued their US student visas. Now, the US employs an open doors, secure border policy. Now, we could talk a lot about where this policy comes from, but let me explain it briefly. The US has almost 1 million students from around the world who come to study or for exchange programs in the United States. In order to facilitate your travel, we have this policy, open door, secure border. What it means is that we want to ensure you can come to the US, travel back and forth as you need, and ensure that you can reach your destination and study in your programs. It's important to us that you be able to come to the US and study. Now, in order to have a centralized system to manage this flow of students into the US, there is some paperwork involved in the process. So let's talk about what the process is and what the paperwork is. What does Anjali need to do to get her visa? Well, there are 6 steps outlined on your screen here. We're going to go through each of these steps. Now, again, as we finish this presentation, I want you to know that all of this information is available on our website. If you go to ustraveldocs.com/in, you will see all of this information available for you at home, day and night. The first step is to request an I-20 from your university. Now, the I-20 is a form the university knows that they need to provide to you. You will receive this form after you have been admitted into the university. The I-20 outlines your name, the name of the university, the name of your program, and the duration of the program in months. The I-20 also lists the date at which the university expects you to report to campus, the date at which you need to arrive on campus. As soon as you have the I-20, that is when you can start this process. Once you have the I-20, you're going to go online to our website, ustraveldocs.com/in, and you're going to complete the DS-160. Now, a DS-160 is a visa application. It's nothing more, nothing less. It's an online visa application. So there are 2 websites listed on your screen. ustraveldocs.com/in is where you'll go. That's where you'll fill out your visa application. You're then going to also go to this other website. So you'll register on ustraveldocs.com, you go to the other website, complete your visa application. You're then going to pay your visa application fee. Now, there are 2 fees as we talk about this process. This is the first one. So you'll pay your visa application fee. You'll see on your screen there are a number of ways to pay this fee. So after you've filled out your visa application and you paid your fee, you're going to schedule 2 appointments. So we've talked about 2 fees and now 2 appointments. The first appointment that you will have is a biometric appointment. That is where you'll come into one of our offsite facilities and you'll have your picture taken, you'll have your fingerprints checked, they'll check your paperwork. That's the end of the process. Then you're also going to come in to one of our offices for your visa interview. A note about where you can do this. We have 5 locations across India. You are welcome to apply and to interview at whatever location is most convenient for you. So if you're closer to our embassy in Delhi, you can interview there. Or if you prefer to interview at one of our consulates, you can schedule your interview as well as your biometric appointment in Kolkata, in Hyderabad, in Chennai, or here in Mumbai. After you've gone online and you've scheduled your appointments, you're going to ensure that you've paid your second fee, which is the SEVIS fee. So SEVIS is an acronym. It's the name of the program we have to facilitate the travel of students from all over the world into the United States and ensure that they're able to reach their programs successfully. You'll pay a fee to be enrolled in that program at this website, fmjfee.com. So you've paid 2 fees, you've scheduled 2 interviews. Now you're going to come in for your interviews. You'll do your biometric appointment, and after that, you'll come to either the embassy or one of the consulates, and you'll have your visa interview. So please note the information that is in front of you. 2 to 3 minutes is the average length for a student visa interview. That means of the people watching this presentation right now, some of you will have an interview that lasts slightly longer than that time period. Many of you will have an interview that lasts significantly less than that time period. Your student visa interview at one of our offices may last 1 minute. It will last 1 minute. I'm not kidding. Now, you're going to bring your passport, you're going to bring your I-20 to the interview. There is no other paperwork that is required for your student visa. You'll bring your passport and your I-20 to the interview. Be prepared to answer questions about yourself. We want to understand why you want to travel to the United States to study. We want to understand why you want to study your chosen academic field. We want to understand how you're going to pay for that program. From our perspective, there's not a lot of preparation required for the interview. Obviously, you need to go through the 5 steps that we've outlined. You need to have your I-20, file your visa application, schedule your 2 interviews, and pay the 2 fees. But if you've gone through the process of deciding what you want to study, of applying to the university and being admitted to that university, and determining how you're going to pay for the program, that's all that we need to know from you. That's all we want to know in the visa interview. So you need to be prepared to explain what you've already done, which is determine how you're going to be prepared for your program and to succeed in that program, how you're going to pay for that program, and how you're going to use your visa appropriately. So you're going to go to the university and what you're going to do there and what your plans are. That is all you need to do for your interview. After you've gone through that, take a breath. You've made it. As far as we're concerned, that's the end of the process. Now your adventure is just beginning, because now you are ready to travel to the United States and enroll in the university of your choice. A couple notes. Now, if your visa is approved, when your visa is approved, the officer is going to retain your passport. We're going to print your visa and we'll get it back to you within 3 to 5 business days. We let people know this at the interview. We want you to know this now as well, because it's important to us you plan your travel to the United States after you receive your passport with the visa in it. So you will get your passport back, but it's going to take a number of days after your interview. You'll receive an email or an SMS notifying you that your passport is ready for pickup. A couple other dates to remember. If this is your first time applying for your student visa to enroll in your program, you shouldn't apply for it until 120 days before the report date of your program. A couple things I want to say about that. The report date for your program is the date the university expects you to arrive. That's the date that's listed on the I-20. It may be different than the first day of your program. The university may require you to arrive early for any number of reasons, such as an orientation program, an academic advising program, or to move into your housing. 120 days prior to that date is the earliest date you can apply for your student visa. If you come to our office for an interview earlier than 120 days, we're going to ask you to return when it's 120 days prior to your program. You only need to come to our office once, so make sure you do it no earlier than 120 days prior to the start of the program. Now, if you're traveling to the US as a student and having a student visa, you can travel to the US up to 30 days prior to the start of your program. That means if you're planning to travel to the US to look for housing, or to get over jet lag, or to visit friends, or to just have a vacation, you can do that as long as it's 30 days or less before your program. If you want to travel to the US for a longer period of time before your program starts, you can also do that, but it's going to require a separate visa. You're going to need to apply for a tourist visa, for a visitor visa to the US. Now, this is possible. We have people do it every day, all the time, but you're going to need to go through the process of getting a second visa, which is a second visa application, and it's a second visa fee. That is the process for getting your visa. Now, we want to hit on a couple other topics because I know that these are some questions we get asked all the time. So let me give you some information about some things that you might look at after you go through the visa process as the student. So we get asked a lot about your options for practical training in the United States. So as a student in a US university or college or technical institute, you do have options for practical training. The US, we recognize that a degree is not the only thing you need to succeed in your chosen academic field. You also are going to need some practical experience in that field. To that end, you have a number of options. Two of them are outlined here on your screen. There's curricular practical training, and there's optional practical training. Now, CPT and OPT are both options to gain experience in your chosen field, either during your program or after your program. There's a lot of information available about these options. Right now, I just want you to know that they exist. I want you to know that the people you need to speak with about these options are your university. The university will be the institution that guides you through this process. They have people on staff that will help you. They'll explain the process to you. They'll help you find a placement, and they'll help you determine what's appropriate for you. And they'll also keep you aware of any regulations that you need to understand. There are regulations that govern these programs. It's information that will be available to you as you get to your university. Now, OPT, optional practical training, I want you to understand this is an option that's available to you to gain experience in your chosen academic field after your program ends. Students in the United States have the option of having an OPT placement, an optional practical training placement after their program ends for up to 12 months. Students that are completing degrees in STEM fields, in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, have an additional 17 months for a total of 29 months during which they can complete their optional practical training. Now, again, this process goes through the university. There are regulations that govern it. Please make sure you check with your university as you look at these options when you get to the United States. There are exchange visitor programs. So when we talk about student visas, usually we also think about exchange programs. One of the most prominent exchange programs is the Fulbright program, which sends scholars and students from India to the United States, and also sends students from the United States here to India to study at universities across this country. These are programs that are official exchange programs. They are sponsored through both the US government as well as the Indian government, and they're available to engage in research or scholarship or other study opportunities. There are a number of requirements for an exchange visitor visa. First of all, you have to be admitted to a designated exchange visitor program. You will know it is that type of program. The program will tell you, they'll be listed on the website that talks about J visas. Again, if you go to ustraveldocs.com, you'll find information about these. Now, you'll get a form when you're admitted into those programs. It's a DS 2019, and it'll have information about it. Now, there are some other requirements for admission into an exchange visitor program and to be granted a J visa. I just want you right now to understand that these programs exist. Many people look at studying in the United States, and they do apply for an exchange program. There are some very successful programs out there, and they're a wonderful opportunity to go to the United States to study or to do research, to gain experience, and to have the support of an official program. So please take a look around and look at the information that's available to you, either before you study or after you complete your degree. You may choose to complete an exchange program at that time for additional training. I want to speak for a moment about derivative visas. So if you're going to the US and you're going to be studying in the US, there is an option for your spouse and your children to travel with you and stay in the United States with you. Now, everyone that travels to the US requires their own visa. So if you are the person that's going to the US to study, you will need to obtain your visa. Your spouse and your children will also need to obtain a visa. They'll need to apply for a visa, they'll need to complete the visa application, and they'll need to come in for an interview. Your type of visa is going to be based on the type of visa that the student has. So if you are going on an F visa, an F1 visa, we call it, your spouse and your children will be applying for an F2 visa. It's the same with the other classifications of visas. We match them to the visa of the student who's traveling. As you go through the process of thinking about if you're going to move to the United States alone or if you're going to take your family with you for the time that you're studying in the US, we want you to understand a couple of things. First of all, spouses and children of the student visa holder may not work in the US in most situations. So people who are spouses of somebody who has an F visa or an M visa, which means they're going to enroll in a degree granting program or in a technical or a vocational institution, will not be able to work during their time in the United States. So you want to think through how you're going to support yourselves and support your family during your time in the United States. Now, if you're going to the US for an exchange program that we just discussed, one of those official exchange programs, you'll have a J visa. Your spouse and your children will be able to apply for a J2 visa. If they come to the United States with you, they do have the option to work in the United States. They're going to need to get approval to work through the US Department of Homeland Security, and they'll need to do that when they get to the United States. Now, these are a few topics we like to talk through when we talk about the keys to a successful higher education in the United States. We're going to take some time for your questions. I want you to understand again, all of this information is available on our website, ustraveldocs.com/IN. We want to make sure that we answer all your questions. So if we don't get to it today, please understand you can contact us in any number of methods. The information is available. We see students going to the US every day, and we see how excited they are to pursue their dreams and to pursue their plans. We want you to join in their ranks. So anything we can do to help you understand the process, please let us know. That being said, I'll have Nasreen come back as well, and we'll see if there are any questions. Great.
Thank you so much, Michael. You have just demystified the whole visa process for us. But I'm going to hold you back a little longer,
Please.
Because we've had a lot of questions from students. And at the cost of repeating yourself sometime maybe, I'm going to ask some very important questions.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay, so after receiving an I-20, what is the right time to apply for a visa?
Great question. So as we mentioned earlier, and this is also available on our website, once you have your I-20, you can apply for your visa up to 120 days before the report date of your program. So up to 4 months before you're supposed to report to your university, that is when you can apply an interview for your student visa.
Okay, and what if a student needs to switch college in the middle? Because we have a lot of students at ReachIvy who are transfer students. So in that case, what happens?
Sure, good question. So if you are admitted to one university and you plan to attend that university and then you want to switch, you can do that. It happens all the time. Let me explain how you can do that with the visa process. So there are a few options. One would be you get admitted to a university, you think you're going to go there, and then you're admitted to another university, you decide you're going to go there, but you haven't even applied for a visa yet. In that case, just go ahead and apply for the visa. When you fill out your visa application and come in for the interview, let us know what university you're planning on going to. That's very straightforward. Now, if you've already submitted a visa application through our website, between the time you schedule your visa interview and the time you actually come for your visa interview, you switch your university. In that case, you should bring the updated information to the interview. Bring the correct I-20 from the university where you plan to enroll in your program. Also, before you come for your interview, you need to switch your SEVIS fee and your SEVIS registration to the correct university. So you want to go to fmjfee.com and ensure that your SEVIS registration reflects the name of the university where you plan to enroll. If you've already come in for your visa interview and you've already been granted your visa, you'll have a visa in your passport that says your name. It'll also say the name of the university where you're planning to enroll. If you already have your visa and the visa says the name of the university where you do not plan to enroll, you've changed where you plan to study, and you have not yet traveled to the United States, in that case, you're going to need to apply for another student visa. You'll need to go through our website, fill out an application, go through all the steps, and make sure, again, fmjfee.com, make sure your SEVIS registration is transferred to the correct university. Now, the reason for that is because your visa is tied to the university where you're planning to study. So if you travel to the US and at the border, your passport and your visa says the name of the university, but it's the incorrect university, you may encounter difficulties in entering the United States. You'll need to apply for and receive a visa with the correct university. If you've already traveled to the United States and you're already at the university and now you've decided that you want to transfer to another university, that's also possible. And you can do it while you are in the United States without needing to return to India. In that case, you're going to need to change your SEVIS registration through the Department of Homeland Security in the United States. You'll need to do this by speaking with your university where you're currently enrolled and speaking with the new university and ensuring that they help you to transfer your files and transfer your SEVIS registration. Now, again, it is possible to do while you're in the United States, but you want to make sure that you go through the process so you don't encounter any issues with traveling or any other options later.
Okay, so now this is something which shouldn't ideally happen, but I hope everybody's taking notes because Michael's giving amazing insights to the process. If a student has applied late and it takes longer than expected for the student visa to come through, then what happens if the visa doesn't come on time?
Sure. So we encourage people to apply early, obviously no more than 120 days ahead of time. Sometime around 120 days ahead of time is when you want to be applying for your visa and scheduling your interview. You want to not wait until the last minute. When you schedule your interview, there could be a few days or a week wait before you're able to have your interview. So you want to go on the website, apply, schedule your interview, and come in for your interview so you have time to get your passport back and then travel to the US. You're going to need to get to your university by the report date listed on your I-20. If there's not time to do that when you come in for your visa interview, you could encounter some difficulties. It's hard to receive a visa if you're not going to be able to get to the program on time. And so you're going to want to do that ahead of time. If it's late, if there's a reason why it's late and you can help us understand that and that the university somehow understands this, feel free to come in and explain that to us. Every situation is unique. But in general, if the report date has passed and you're coming into interview, you may need to think about starting your program in a later semester.
Okay, so interesting. Okay, another very, very important thing that students ask us at ReachIvy is, my parents are going to accompany me. Is there any separate process that parents have to follow for visas when they're accompanying the students to school?
Great, good question. So we see this all the time as well. Lots of parents accompany their children to help them adjust to the new city, help them find housing, or they just want to go and visit the new city. That's possible. Everybody who travels to the US will need their own visa. There's no specific visa classification or visa type for parents of a student who's traveling to the US. If they're traveling to visit their son or their daughter who's studying in the US, or to help you move to the US for school, they're going to need to apply for a visitor visa. So that's a B2 or a B1, B2 visa. So they'll need to come in for an interview and go through that process. But there's no specific visa type for parents of somebody who's studying in the US. So we'll just need to go on our website, fill out the application, and go through the process. But it's a student visa for the student. For the parents, it's a visitor or a tourist visa.
Okay. So I hope everybody's taking notes again. Important information going out here. The most important question that everybody wonders rather than asks is, why was the visa rejected?
Sure.
What's your response to that?
Sure. So it happens occasionally that people come in and they are told that their visa application has been refused. There are many reasons why this happens. It's unique in every situation. There's no one reason why a visa application might be refused or denied. Now, I can tell you from our experience that the one thing we find sometimes that's common amongst these situations, when you come in for your visa interview, you're going to be asked questions. As we discussed, you're going to be asked questions about why you're planning to study in the US, about what you want to study, about how you're going to pay for the program, about what your plans are. We need you to be able to explain that to us. Many times people will come into interview with us at one of our offices and they'll bring documents with them. You're welcome to bring paper with you. You're welcome to bring documents with you if they help you explain to the visa officer what your plans are and how you're planning to pay for your program. But we need you to be able to explain it to the officer as well. Our process, our visa process for the US, is an interview-based process. It's not a document-based process. The reason we require an interview is because we want to speak with you. We don't want to speak with your paperwork. And so many times we've seen people come in and they're just unable to answer our questions. If we can't speak with you, if we can't have you explain to us what you're going to do in the United States and what your purpose of travel is, then it's very difficult for us to approve your visa application. So please understand that when you come in to speak with us, we want to speak with you.
Okay. Last words of advice that you would like to give students who are applying for the US visa?
Make sure you fill out your visa application early. Make sure you fill it out honestly and completely, and also be honest and complete when you come in for your visa interview. Expect that you'll be asked questions. Be ready to answer those questions. Again, you don't need to do anything extra to prepare for your interview. You've already done the hard work. You've already figured out where you want to study. You figured out how you're going to pay for that program. And you've gone through the difficult process of being admitted to that program. So first of all, congratulations on being admitted to that program and on choosing to go overseas to study. And just go through the process and answer the questions that are asked of you and have a great time.
Great. Thank you so much, Michael, for taking our time. There's Rachel in the background. Thank you, Rachel. I know this is very important for every student who's looking to study abroad to the US.